We talk about radiation. Many years ago, radiation was invented. It was Pierre and Marie Curie who discovered radium, and that also by accident. When they saw something coming, some glowing happening in the wash basin when they were doing some of their chemistry, and they discovered radium, and from that radium, the word radiation came because radiation was emitting from that radium, and for which they got the Nobel Prize. Several years went by and radiation was perfected, and they found out more about radiation and its effects, and soon they found that radiation has a huge power, and that power can destroy yet also be used for good stuff. And the next time we heard about radiation was when the Americans dropped the atom bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And so many people died and so much destruction happened. And after that the war stopped. And after that everyone said, was it worth putting such a big bomb? And everyone lived in the fear of radiation. And so we know the bad part of radiation. And then when you open the books, you realize that radiation has various forms. It's like a spectrum. You know that light has a spectrum? When you put light through a prism and you get a spectrum. And the spectrum is Vibgyor, if you remember. I'm sure you've been taught violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. That's the spectrum. That's the spectrum of visible light. And on that side of red, you have infrared, which you cannot see, but it's still there. And on this side of blue, we have, on this side of violet, we have ultraviolet, which is again not visible. So there is a huge spectrum, some of it is visible and some of it is not. And likewise, radiation is also transmitted by waves. And these waves are two types. We have the ionizing radiation and the non-ionizing radiation. Now you might wonder, what is ionizing and what is non-ionizing? If you have a molecule, which is the basis of structure, you have molecule is the basic unit. You have many molecules join up and they become a tissue. And the tissue becomes a bigger structure and a bigger structure till a full human being is formed. So every single thing, if you break it up completely, like a building you break up completely, you get a brick. A brick is a molecule of a building. Likewise, a molecule is the smallest divisible part of a tree or of a human being or of anything. So, if you put radiation on a molecule and if it can break the molecule, it's called ionizing radiation. And if it cannot break the molecule, it's called non-ionizing radiation. So, ionizing radiation is what we dropped, the radiation bomb, the radioactive bomb which they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that bomb destroyed people because when that radiation fell on people, their molecules broke up. And those people who were very close to it, they died instantly because so much damage was done. They just got burnt. They just got burnt on the spot. But those people who were very far away, their cells were damaged such that those cells then after several years became cancer cells. And therefore, Japan saw a huge epidemic of cancer and deformed babies because whenever pregnant women were there and the radiation hit them, those children stopped developing inside, and some were born without lips, some without ears, some without eyes, some without a brain, some without limbs. Depends on which stage of development they were during the pregnancy. And so radiation did lots of damage not only on that day when it was dropped, but it continued to do for several years. Even till today, you have people living with those deformities and as a memory of that very black day in history. So that's the power of radiation of the ionizing type. Now when you harness that power, and you not just don't throw it into a city, but you focus it, that power of radiation is used to destroy cancer. So you might have heard of some relative or some friend or some neighbor who got cancer and they first undergo surgery, and after that they are said that either you will get chemotherapy, or chemotherapy are medicines which when given inside they destroy the cancer cells and so cure a person of cancer. And if it's not medicines which you can inject into the person, then it is radiation. So you have three choices in cancer. One is surgery, the other is radiation, and the third is chemotherapy. And this radiation is also ionizing, but it is focused. It is only pointed to the cancer, and so when it falls on the cancer, it burns that cancer. And that's how we sometimes are able to cure people with radiation. And so ionizing radiation has a function. And then comes the non-ionizing radiation. The non-ionizing radiation is a large spectrum. And this non-ionizing radiation was first introduced into the general public in the form of a microwave oven. Now, when microwave oven was first invented, I won't say it was discovered because it wasn't there, it was made, it was created. So, when the first microwave oven was invented, they did lots of research of the effect of microwave on the human beings. And they made the box of the microwave so thick and so protected that when they generate microwave inside the oven, somebody standing in a range of 2 or 3 feet or 5 feet of that place will not get any radiation. So then they said, after lots of research and lots of innovation and modifications and so on, they said microwave is safe for human consumption, for human beings to use. And so microwave became a big industry. And in an industry where on one side the men and women were both going out to work, they both had less time, so the women would say that it saves me so much time to be able to put something into a microwave and heat it immediately and give it to my family. I can make a quick meal out of a microwave oven and save so much time so that I can get to my office or workplace faster. Now, till then, no research had been done on what the effect of microwave is on the food. We know that microwave heats the food. But you know, how many of you have a microwave at home? Oh, that's almost all of you. Now, do you know how it warms your food? Does anyone know how it warms your food? Anybody want to try a guess?
Yeah.
Yes?
When the vibration falls on the food molecules, they rub together.
They what?
Rub together, and because of that, they heat up.
Fantastic. Which class are you in? Fifth standard. Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. Now, I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. What we have here is radiation. Now, when you put a microwave, you put food into a microwave, you put it in a container, and the container is hard, solid. The food is soft. Maybe it's a soup, or maybe it's a cutlet, or it may be something soft. Now, you know that in liquids the molecules have space. They are loosely packed. In solids the molecules are tightly packed, and in gas they are very loose. So if I did this, I can feel the air, but I can't see it. Because the air molecules are situated so far apart that they don't make a structure. But you can see liquid flowing because there the molecules are a little looser, but yet close enough for us to see. But in solid, they're so solidly packed like in rock, there's no place for them to move, they're tightly packed. Now when radiation falls on liquid, it hits the molecule and makes the molecule vibrate at a very high frequency. And when that molecule vibrates at a very high frequency, it generates heat. And that's how the liquid gets heated up. But when it falls on the molecules of the container is solid and the molecules have no space for them to vibrate. So the molecules of the container don't vibrate, and if they do vibrate, it's not enough to create heat. And that's why you find the container doesn't get hot, but the food gets hot. You put it in a normal oven, the container will also be hot and the food will also be hot, because there you have actual heat exchange and not just radiation of the food. Now this was fine. Everyone was enjoying good hot food, and it was saving time and it was convenient and so on. Till one day a chemist in a laboratory was doing experiments with glucose and enzymes, how to digest glucose. He was doing experiments on how the body digests glucose. Now, you all know that glucose has two forms. One is the glucose L and the glucose D. You know, in the market you see advertisement Glaxo's D. That you all know it. You know that it's called glucose D, and the D means dextro and L means levo, and they are mirror images. You know, when you see yourself in the mirror, your right hand looks like left hand and left hand looks like right hand. It's because you are exactly opposite. So exactly like that, you have every molecule in the world, whether it is glucose or its amino acids or its fatty acids or glycerol, every molecule has two images. One is a D image, one is a L image, and the D and L are exactly opposite. Now this man was doing an experiment on enzyme action on glucose D, and he was using a hot air oven to heat his glucose solution before the experiment. Then one day his hot air oven got spoiled. So he started thinking, now what will I use to warm this? And suddenly noticed that his wife's microwave oven was right behind him in the kitchen. So he said, why not I use her microwave oven? And he put the solution in the microwave oven, it got heated to that temperature, and he tried to do the experiment. And that experiment wouldn't work. And he started wondering, he said it worked earlier when I used my hot air oven, but it didn't work when I used the microwave. Why is that? So he took a spectroscope and he looked at the molecules of glucose in the microwave solution, and he was horrified to realize that the D-glucose had become L-glucose. Because when the radiation hits the glucose, it vibrates so much that it just took a somersault and became different. And it became D-glucose become L-glucose. And now the enzyme which he had made could not digest that glucose. And so he published this statement saying that when I use a hot air oven, the glucose remained D-glucose, but when I use a microwave oven, the glucose D becomes glucose L, and as a result, it cannot be digested. And that was the one and only research of the effects of microwave on food itself. And if you extrapolate, if you translate that in your everyday food, you put your food inside, is the D form. When it vibrates and becomes hot, it becomes the L form. When you eat that food, you think that you have taken lots of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, but you don't know that they've all taken somersaults inside that container, inside that microwave. And now your enzymes in your stomach can't recognize them. And when you can't recognize them, then that food is bad for you. It ferments, becomes bad, so you get gas, you get acidity, you get diarrhea, you get sickness, you get tiredness, you get vitamin deficiency, mineral deficiency. All this because we eat microwave food. And then you translate it today. I had done one research in one company where they have very hi-fi people. It's an international company. And I had 150 people and I sent them for tests. And all the normal tests that you do when the person falls sick, I did those tests. But I also did two more tests. I did vitamin B12 level in the blood and vitamin D3 level in the blood. And when I found these results, I was horrified. I found that 80%, without exaggeration, 80% of that company's executives were deficient in vitamin B12 and 60% were deficient in the vitamin D3. And both these vitamins, though they come from within your own system, but they also come from your diet. And I find that all of them, because of shortage of time, were at some point in time using the microwave, so much so that the cafeteria in the company which used to heat their tea or heat their food or heat their any food which they wanted was all using microwave. And so I presented this back to them. And then we've changed over from microwaves. And over these years, last 5 years, I see that the incidence of vitamin B12 deficiency and D3 deficiency has come down. And the incidence of tiredness, which is an epidemic of today's times. If you look in this room, and if you ask, or if you see the children, or see the teachers, or see, and at some given point in time, all of you feel you wake up tired and sleep exhausted. And the reason is that a lot of our food is being destroyed. So this is about one of the effects of non-ionizing radiation. But non-ionizing radiation goes even further. The application didn't stop at cooking your food. It went on to make telephones. So first it came as the cordless line, because we had a transmitter, and the transmitter could send these non-ionizing radiation waves which could be picked up by a receiver, and so suddenly you have a cordless phone. You're walking around the entire house with a phone piece in your hand till you walk out of the range of that transmitter. So your transmitter has a range of, let's say, 10 feet, so that you can listen to your phone in a radius of 10 feet. So this was the next application. After this, you found suddenly there's a cell phone. A cell phone is a cellular phone which is also emitting and receiving radiation. So together, this cell phone becomes an instrument which can emit radiation and receive radiation. And it became so popular because it has completely revolutionized our lives. Today, in my childhood, when our parents sent us to a party, first they would give us instructions, is that go safely, cross safely, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then they put us into somebody's car or our own car, and then say farewell, and after that we have forgotten. And we used to go to the party, finish everything, and if we had a landline in that party, we would give the number to the parents, and if it was too late, they would phone the landline, and so on. Till we came home, sometimes they would be worrying, sometimes they would be sleeping, knowing that we will come home at this time. Today, all the children who go for parties are given cell phones, and every 15 minutes the mother will say, did you eat? Did you do this? Did you reach? Did you come back? When are you coming back? Come on back now, it's time to come back. And that goes on, which has obviously revolutionized communication. For example, if I'm standing here in this meeting and one of my patients falls really sick, my secretary may telephone me, because she says this guy is available 24/7. But on one side you have the revolution. We have a revolution which everyone wants to join. Everybody wants to get the benefits of it. But nobody realizes that with the benefits come a lot of disadvantages. And these disadvantages is what we are here to tell you about. And these disadvantages are that this radiation, though much lesser than a microwave radiation, is radiation. And radiation works the same way. It impinges on soft molecules and makes them vibrate. Now, I don't know how many of you talk for a long time on telephone. Has any one of you had a talk for 10 minutes or more on the telephone? You have. And all of you have. Okay. No, on a cell phone, not on a landline. Okay, put your hands down. And how many of you have experienced that your ear becomes hot after 10 minutes? You all realize this. And do you know how it becomes hot? Exactly the same way as the food becomes hot in a microwave oven. The radiation from your phone hits your ear and makes the tissues in your ear vibrate to such a high frequency that the ear becomes hot. And so does your eardrum. And so does the nerve which carries the message to your brain. And over a period of time, that nerve starts to become sick. And when that nerve becomes sick, even if the phone is not ringing, you can hear a ringing sound in your ear. It goes on continuously in your ear. And this happens when you have aggregated something like 100 hours of cell phone usage in your lifetime. And therefore, if you allow this to happen, before you know it, in a period of time, you find that diseases start cropping up. And these diseases are serious diseases like brain tumors, the hearing nerve tumors, vision problems. The eye is so close to the phone, it hits on the eye, and you have seen that cataracts can form and blindness can happen because of radiation. It can affect the retina. Now, less than all, when you use a cell phone, it only radiates when the cell phone rings or when you are using it. So this area is the one which is affected. Now you might have seen some posters in the PowerPoint which said that we don't want our children below 12 to use cell phones. And I know that at least half of you are below 12. Am I right? Most of them. 12 is 7th standard and we have 5th and 6th grade. So 12? Why did they say 12? And why not 13, 14, 15? I would say actually any age from birth till 18, I'd say. The reason is that as you're growing into young adults, your bones become stronger. When you are children, your bones are soft like cardboard. You can bend them, and you see, anytime you see a newborn child, feel the skull of the child and you feel that it's got cardboard and not bone. And it's so soft, you can press it. Now you put a cell phone next to that child's ear, the radiation crosses straight through the cardboard and into the brain and literally cooks the brain. Now as you grow older, this cardboard becomes a bit harder and harder and harder and thicker till you become 18 or 19 or 20 or 21. And by that time, it's become as hard as like this. And this hardness prevents the radiation from getting to the brain. And that's why adults are safer to use a cell phone for a shorter time than children are. So you shouldn't feel that this is discrimination that children don't get a cell phone. If you can use it, I can use it. It's not an argument that holds good. Because if you use it, you suffer much more than when your parents use it. Of course, your parents will suffer, but you use it at a bigger risk. And this is what happens to the cell phone while it is ringing and being used. Now, most of the girls that I see, they carry the cell phone in their jeans pocket. Is there any other place where you carry it? In your handbag? And the handbag is, how do you put it? You put it on your shoulder, and where does it hang? Somewhere near your hips. So, most of the time, the cell phone is very close to your hips. And today, in girls, there is a huge epidemic of a disease called polycystic ovarian disease. It's a disease that affects the ovaries. It's the gland that makes you a girl. And that gland makes ova and hormones and so many different things. Now, if you keep your cell phone there all the time, that cell phone will keep sending radiation to the ovary, and one of the major reasons for ovarian problems in girls is because they carry a cell phone very close to it. And that's another one of the major diseases which have been seen. So, you saw a list of diseases. One of them is tiredness, the other is local head problems, memory problems. Now you don't get cancer straight away. You get cancer only at a fag end of the spectrum, but before that you get so many diseases. These diseases are like memory problems, concentration problems, sleep problems, and all these problems which are being passed off as usual in a stressful world, but they're because of this radiation. So we have radiation emitting from the cell phones. Now this radiation happens only when you use it. So let's say it's not all that dangerous. But the cell phone, the towers which are being established everywhere are towers which are emitting radiation all the time. So whenever your cell phone rings, it just picks up the radiation from the tower. But from those towers, from the antenna, you get radiation all the time. And so if you imagine your house is facing a radiation tower, is continuously sending radiation to your house. And if you imagine that you are studying for a physics exam tomorrow or an English exam tomorrow, sitting on your table for the whole day, and this radiation is hitting you all the time, can you imagine how much radiation that you are absorbing? And that's the reason why many people feel tired and many people feel lack of energy, lack of concentration, lack of memory, or they become sick. Is because they are being engaged with radiation. That's why we have been moving from school to school and society to society and talk about these radiation hazards, because by the time it is inconclusively proved or proved beyond doubt that radiation is harmful to health, we will have epidemics of many diseases. We don't want to wait till then. We don't want to wait till our hands are burnt and then say that this is fire. Once we have common sense, we know that this fire, it can burn, and therefore let's work against it. Because what we are up against is a lot of money. When they put up towers in foreign countries, the tower has few antennas, and these antennas are soft, weak antennas which cover only that neighborhood. and the weak radiation doesn't hurt anyone. But here we want to save money, so they put up big antenna, big towers, many antenna, so that you save money on making towers and making strong, and they send very strong radiation. And that strong radiation reaches very far, and that's how you get good range. But those who live near that antenna, they fall into that almost tsunami of radiation right next to their house. So in order for someone from JB Petit, if there was a tower on your school, if someone near Metro Cinema had to experience the good reception on his phone, then can you imagine what will happen to the building right in front? He'll be burnt every day. So what the cell companies are doing are putting up fewer towers, more antenna, and jacking up the power so that they can reach up far, and that saves them a lot of money, and that's why there's a lot of fight. Otherwise, it's a well-known fact that these are harmful things. But because Indian public keeps quiet, that's the reason why these things are allowed to happen till a very late stage. And you and I are the Indian public. So we have a mouth, we have head, we have intelligence, we make noise. And therefore, when you go back home today, you're going to carry home a message that though we have cell phones and though it has changed our lives completely, we have to treat it with respect. And if you notice that big towers are coming up right next to your house and pointing the beam to your house, make noise, tell the grown-ups around, say, you know, that tower is wrong, that tower is wrong. And once you tell the grown-ups, then they'll be forced to listen. How do you create the atmosphere at home for an ice cream? Say, Papa, I want ice cream. Then he keeps quiet, he doesn't listen to you. Say, Papa, I said I want ice cream, I want ice cream, I want ice cream. Till you get your ice cream, right? So now, you do the same thing for a good cause. So when you get back home, you say that today we had a lecture in school and the school lecturer said radiation is harmful to us and we must use it less. So if you find that dad sitting on his cell phone whole day like this or mom sitting on the cell phone, tell them that look, you use a landline, don't use the cell phone, otherwise you will be sick. And you yourself don't use the cell phone so much. And when you see towers coming up, make a noise. Go tell the grown-ups in your building and tell everybody around that, and then you become an ambassador for change. And today, if you take your own future in your hands, your adulthood will be a very happy adulthood. And we try our best to make sure that it's your adulthood that's happy and our old age that's happy. Thanks very much.